right, guys. Welcome to the Curious Investor Podcast. My name is Paulino Marquez. I'm one of your hosts.
And my name is Philip Costa. I'm the co-host.
Yeah, and this is the Curious Investor Podcast where we get guests on to demonstrate their expertise in the finance and real estate industries. Today we have a special guest, Lalit Devraj, who we met through mutual friends and family. And why don't you introduce yourself, Lalit?
Yeah, how's it going, everyone? First of all, thanks for the invite, guys. I'm really excited to be here. You know how it is. And so Lalit Devraj, based out of Atlanta, Georgia, but been living from New York to California, so lived across America. And just fast forward, have an engineering degree as my background, but finance aficionado day in, day out. Work in the field of management consulting day to day, but at the same time, love to spread and kind of inform the folks of kind of deals, tricks, investing, and everything around making more money as a mutual beneficial situation. So I have a YouTube channel as well where I share kind of cryptocurrency tips, kind of trading tips, credit cards, personal finance, investing, and kind of everything around money. So, but yeah, no, thanks for having me, Gil.
Yeah, absolutely, man. So like just to get to where you like your background. So you said you're an engineer. What kind of engineer were you?
Industrial engineering.
Or did you study?
Yeah, which basically deals with optimization and kind of how do you make something more efficient, essentially.
Yeah, and you use that to get into management consulting? Is that like your first job was in management consulting?
Yeah, so I've been in the field of consulting for around 5 years, mix of both tech/IT consulting as well as your management consulting. So being an engineer, basically the type of engineer I am, in consulting, it's really kind of, making processes more efficient sometimes, or how do we optimize something? So basically if you're using data to make informed decisions or kind of some type of metric, right? How do you make something better? Basically, that's my major. It can be very technical at times, but depending on, kind of the day-to-day, use different skills in each and every way.
Very cool. So how did you, so you started off in engineering. What made you make the transition over? Was it a video you watched, or was it someone that inspired you?
Yeah, so I actually, let me take like a step back. So in high school, I went to high school in India, so I lived there for 5 years. And over there, one of the craziest, most maybe coincidental kind of experiences I had was that I got to choose like what type of subjects I get to learn. So I purposely didn't choose biology or physics or chemistry, but there was choices like economics and business studies. So from like a younger age, I was always kind of into it, and I was like, this is so interesting. So I chose business as my major in college, but then it was just maybe kind of cultural background or kind of an influence of, hey, you should just pick engineering, don't go to school for business. But I think deep inside, it was always, hey, business, entrepreneurship, making money, not a non-traditional, conventional way, was always my mindset and kind of way of everything day to day.
Oh, nice. So you said that you went to high school in India, and then you came to America for university. Is that, I'm assuming, right?
Yeah.
Where'd you go to school? Just as a background, I just want to know what state you went to school in.
Yeah. So basically, my initial kind of years were New York and California. So first 12 years in America, then 5 years in India, and then back. Ended up coming back into Georgia. So I went to Georgia Tech, and I've been here in Atlanta since almost 10 years now. So yeah.
Nice. And so like your journey into finance.
Yeah.
So like you're going into management consulting where you're trying to like consult people on being more efficient with their processes, and like you have clients, and you're kind of like catering to them. So how do you use that knowledge, or not just that knowledge, that kind of mindset to better yourself financially? So I know like when did your if we track back that question, like when did you start thinking of finance, personal finance, and investing as something that you wanted to do?
Yeah. So I think it started really from there's this childhood type of, that kind of foundation of maybe, shaped a certain way of, feeling, hey, maybe it's kind of this expression, comparison is the thief of joy, where when I was younger, I didn't really know this. And so maybe, my family versus, maybe others in the neighborhood around me, I always felt maybe, hey, are we not maybe as rich as maybe someone down the road? But maybe my family ended up being maybe more frugal. And so I think it was this kind of thinking, which may seem kind of negative from far away, but over the years, understanding more of kind of the root of why I think this way, but then instead of being afraid of it, kind of having that kind of fear mindset or poor mindset, instead of having that more towards the abundance mindset. And then I was just thinking, kind of more above a certain way, day to day, when I could think more clearly, and I was like, wait a second, there's a traditional way where you're working for X amount of time, maybe for 40 years, but you can actually shorten that by doing certain moves whether that's, trading or doing some type of money moves where you can basically buy your time back. And so when that kind of, at a high level functionally came to me, I was always thinking, there must be another way. There must be another way. How are these people taking walks at the park at 2:30 p.m. and they're totally chilling and not somewhere, right? So it was kind of that feeling of there must be a way. And then I think YouTube definitely helped, where the algorithm pushed some video to me, went down the rabbit hole, and then just kind of binge watch, and I was like, man, I wish if I could go back. I'm sure everyone says this. If I could go back 5 years, if I can go back 10 years, I had those moments, and I was like, this is so damn cool, and I just wanted to learn more. So yeah.
So what was that initial moment? What was like your first investment, or what got you started?
Yeah, so I always tell someone, if they're trying to invest, there's this common kind of advice, like, hey, paper trade first, don't lose real money, learn, a certain way where you're not screwing yourself over. But I was like, no, fuck that. You got to learn. You got to lose your $10, your $100. You got to lose something, because when you feel that emotional attachment, you learn so much. In 15 minutes of trading, you go through all these emotions. And when you see that, anything in life is kind of easy. So what I'm trying to get at, it's not like a dopamine rush or like a adrenaline junkie, but at the same time, I think it was just the speed at which I wanted things, and then the market was providing. And so I think it was just that it was like a toy you could play, but it could also change your life. So it was that I could have fun and I could financially fend for myself and others around me. So I think it was just everything coming together. Maybe not one moment, but everything kind of inching up towards that point, if that makes sense.
Yeah. I'm laughing, and Paulino was laughing too, because I'm sure we were thinking about the same moment that we had when we were losing money in the stock market just from speculative investments. Like, we had no idea what we were doing in college. We're like, throw $100 here and just losing almost all of it.
I was like, oil is never gonna lose value. It's so important. It's like I'm day trading oil like freaking penny stocks or something like that, and like thinking that I'm an investor. But yeah, so I agree with you. You do need to feel the pain. I feel like to learn the most. Like even if it's pain, even if it's pleasure, if you make money, you need to feel that sense of emotion so that you could ground yourself when you have a little bit more money. Yeah. And with that, I want to ask you, what are your main types of investments? Like what is what you do on a personal level for yourself?
Yeah.
Because you did speak about wanting to possibly shorten that 40-year work life, or maybe retire early and not necessarily stop working, but maybe do stuff that you absolutely love at a younger age.
Yeah.
Instead of waiting until you're 65. When did that? What do you do, and when did you start doing that?
So what I do personally, I'll start there. Today, what I do is different from what I kind of learned doing. So at the highest level from the stock market, I deal with both options as well as just common stock, holding it. Hodl for the long term, that's one angle, that's a long-term hold. Then you got actual trading, buying, selling without options, just common stock. Then you got options contracts themselves. So you can be a seller of options where you're collecting premium, quote unquote passive income. We can get into, kind of deeper as we go along. But at the same time, you have the active income side of just trading. So this is all from the stock market. And you have dividends from the stock market as well, which is another portfolio in its own way. So that's more of the stock market side. Then in cryptocurrency, I started trading cryptocurrency options around maybe a little shy of a year ago, just because of regulation and what we had available in America to trade in terms of the platform themselves. But cryptocurrency been involved since more than before the 2017 boom. It's just I didn't have that mindset of, we can hold for the long term, and this is what happens when you long-term invest. But point being, so cryptocurrency, stock market. So I own my primary residence, is where I am right now. So I don't have any investment properties at this time, but I have money in the market, which eventually may be liquidated to act as a down payment for an investment property. But that's kind of, kind of next steps. And I would say that's primarily the major one. And so right now, where I am in terms of like the place of my mindset is, I feel like I figured out the systems that I'm comfortable with in terms of how I can get X amount of return or income, and adjusting, certain type of risk and what type of percentage of my portfolio and allocation. And now I'm at a point of how the hell do I get more dollars into the portfolio? So I'm concentrating on more of the active income side. And so YouTube and items like this, and my job, of course, and, maybe going after promotions and whatnot, but it's coming to a point where every minute has, an opportunity cost, where does it make sense to get promoted and maybe get, a 20, just an example, 20, 30 grand raise, or does it make sense to work on something for a year or two and then get 20 or 30 as a base given every day, and then that's only exponential from there. So I'm facing these type of questions at this very given time. That's where I am
Fair
right
enough.
now.
Yeah, fair enough. I want to dig a little bit into the dividend stock investing, and could you just explain what that is and what role that plays in your portfolio?
Yeah, so dividend investing, there's kind of three words. There's dividend growth and investing. So dividend growth investing. You have dividends where you basically it's passive income in one way. That's what the output and result is. But what dividends are is they're basically companies you can say they're giving you a thank you or basically giving you cash back from their balance sheet instead of just keeping cash maybe on their accounts. And sometimes dividends get a bad name in terms of, hey, if you have this cash and you're giving it back to just the investors, you're not really using that for research and development or innovation, or how are you going to grow more revenue without investing more? I don't want this cash. I just want you to use it. And so it gets a lot of flack. But at the same time, dividends, when you think about it, they're a steady stream of income potentially. And the key word is dividend growth, where over the years, for example, if you look at actual numbers like Texas Instruments, I'm sure we're familiar from high school with our TI-84s, they've been growing their dividend 5 years, over the last 5 years, compounding 20% plus year over year over year. So if you have, example, a 2% dividend 5 years ago, compound that, it's going to be more than double. So your dividend yield on cost is huge. So for me, it's very stable, predictable kind of cash flow or income. You can deal with kind of your safer stocks like your Coca-Colas of the world, Procter Gamble's, Colgate, Palmolive, these type of companies. Even if you want to stay safe, but I look at it like it's a hedge towards inflation in terms of your portfolio. So you may not be growing rapidly, but in terms of cash flow, which is something I put a lot of value to, I think that's where dividends are huge. They're not going to maybe make you rich in the short term, but they can provide a lot in the long term.
Yeah, like I see dividends as a similar to like rents are for a real estate property. It's like essentially like an added plus to owning an asset. So like you're paying down your real estate, your real estate through your down payment and through the monthly mortgage payments. But then at the same time, that profit is the benefit of owning that asset, and that's similar to dividends. You're owning an asset, and they're giving you a bonus to say thank you, like you said, and also to grow your own personal income and passive income. To add on that, what other forms of passive income are you looking at now besides dividends? Now that you explained that that's one of your streams of passive income, what is another stream that you use as passive income?
Yeah. So I would say there's cryptocurrency has a couple angles of income. So for example, if you have certain platforms or exchanges and you have your cryptocurrency with them, you don't need to stake your cryptocurrency. There's staking rewards in cryptocurrency, and then there's earning interest where certain platforms without getting too deep into names, they'll basically give you X amount of interest and they'll make the spread by lending it out at a higher rate somewhere else, but you're still getting interest, while staking is more like you're keeping your coins at a certain place for X amount of time to get a certain type of yield, and you're providing liquidity to that certain XYZ coin. And so from a passive perspective, that's basically saying, hey, if I believe the cryptocurrency is going to go up anyways, but I don't want to just trade it intraday or even in general, like swing trading, I can just keep it and earn interest passively. So that's one way. But stable coins are the biggest thing. If you want to hold cash, but you want basically some interest on your cash without getting 0 point whatever percent at a traditional savings account, that's where crypto, I think, is a huge benefit, where you don't need to really buy Bitcoin or Ethereum, or even though those are like the fang of cryptocurrency, you can get away with just buying stable coins like USDT, USDC, GUSD, and there's so many more. So I look at it like passive income. There's cryptocurrency passive income, and the options market, you can trade actively, but you can sell contracts out for, let's say, 2 years from now or even 3 years from now. So what that means is you've got an X amount of return guaranteed in your pocket, cash in hand, and that way you don't need to worry for 3 years from now. Now, again, given maybe the certain investment time frame, if you're younger, maybe this isn't the best case, but let's say you win the lottery or even half of that, you can live, quote unquote, for free and really have a really conservative portfolio. So what I'm getting at is it's amazing to have a huge lump sum at one fine day, or however you structure your investment, because passive income means if you have a lot of money, you can actually live indefinitely and maybe even your future lineage, generation, family, etc.
Very cool. Could you just break down? I know you mentioned that you trade options with crypto. Can you dive a little bit deeper into that and the process it takes to from the start and then when you make your profit or loss?
Yeah. So I would say technical wise, options are all the same, whether stock market or cryptocurrency, in terms of what the definition of the financial instrument or tool is. Really, it really just depends on who's providing that opportunity for us to trade. So for example, if Robinhood didn't come out when it did, we'd still be in the eras of E-Trade, Schwab, Fidelity, these type of companies we know. But at the same time, because there's folks that are making these platforms, we have this opportunity to trade. So I would say at this time, not a lot of folks, first of all, maybe crypto is kind of getting famous, but it's more news famous, where I don't think as many people are into it as the media makes it to be. That's just a personal opinion. And every year, we kind of get more into it. And why I'm explaining this is because when it comes to options, it comes down to, if there's value for something, there's some demand and some supply. So if you got 10 people trading, X amount of assets versus maybe 1 million people, it's going to be a big difference in terms of how much you can get in the bid-ask spread, if we're getting kind of technical. So at this time, there's a lot of arbitrage opportunities in the cryptocurrency options market, where if you know how to trade and you know the technicals and you know what you're doing, you can take advantage of just opportunities that wouldn't exist in a more fair market like what is normal in the stock market day to day.
So, like speaking of keeping on the term of on the topic of crypto, what, like, because there's a lot of people that are afraid of crypto. They think that it's too volatile. They're scared of it compared to traditional assets. It seems a little bit more like volatile. Like it goes up in price, and one day, the next day, it's down like 10%, 20%. I understand that there's a lot of value in the technology behind cryptocurrency, blockchain technology. I know it's being implemented in many different ways. As an investment or somebody that's looking to get into that space, what do you have to say? And also, if you don't mind, be specific with like the platforms that you use, and also the way that you invest in cryptocurrency yourself. You could like share the platform you use if you don't mind, just so somebody's looking for that, that you give it to them.
Yeah, no, that's awesome. So. If you don't mind, what was the first part of the question?
Like basically, like what is the value of cryptocurrency? Or like why is it something that people should be interested in? And also, why do you do it? And what platforms do you use specifically to invest in crypto for people that don't know?
Okay, so I think why crypto is important. It all comes back to kind of history. We went from the barter system where I have 2 chickens and you have a goat. You want to trade? No, you want 3 chickens? I'll talk to you next week because I don't have them. It's like this. So we started with kind of back and forth. Then we went on to our coins made of gold, silver. And, from there, eventually we made the actual physical bills itself, our notes, our cash. And then from there, we went to exchanging plastic with magnetic strips, credit cards, debit cards, in terms of a way to communicate our language, but in terms of money. So where crypto comes in is, I feel, and I quote it as just one more layer. So if we had cash, crypto is now this new value. And some folks may say, crypto, you're just creating value out of nothing. If you just create, 10 million coins and they're all worth, you say it's $1, you're just creating value out of thin air. Now, that could be one of the alarming points of just, wait, is this even real? Folks may think. But if you go back to the dollar and the usual story, everyone says, oh, but the dollar's not backed by gold. So what is it? What's really going on now? And when you dig a little deeper and you really look into the story, without getting too much into politics and stuff, everything's really connected. And what I'm getting at is cryptocurrency can be influenced heavily by the same currencies that are going in. So if we're saying a lot of American investors are getting into crypto or Bitcoin, and we're saying China is as well, we're talking again about our geopolitics and these type of things instead of a trade war. It's coming down into who has that capital market kind of ownership. And so when it comes to the stock market, who has the most powerful one in the world? It's America, right? Whether we say it in a positive light or a negative light, it comes to a capitalistic society and otherwise. So that's one part of why it's important, is because it's the future, and it's also representative of the current ways and so much more. And what I do day to day, keeping it kind of a little more specific in terms of certain brokerages I use and otherwise. So at this point, I accumulate a lot of coins and I'll earn interest by just leaving them there, because I expect certain cryptocurrencies to go 5x, 10x, and to the moon, and they can do that, and that's great. But at the same time, I think that it's smart to just keep it somewhere and know that, hey, I'm getting 5 or 10%, depending on what type of coin it is. And so, for example, there's certain, apologies for the background noise.
It's all good.
There's certain kind of exchanges, for example, Gemini, BlockFi, Celsius, Nexo, Voyager, and there's Coinbase, of course. And you can buy crypto on places like Cash App or Robinhood or PayPal/Venmo nowadays. But there's a difference between you keeping your coin, where you can actually, withdraw it onto an offline wallet, for example, from certain exchanges. And you can do this on Coinbase or all of these Nexo, Voyager, etc. But in the end, they own your cryptocurrency. If something goes wrong with them, you can lose it all. And that's another fear of someone who's trying to get into it. But when you understand, like, hey, this is actually how it works, where crypto is something that you can actually keep for yourself, just like cash in your pocket. There are other ways that you don't need to keep it online all the time. You can have it offline if you feel afraid, but there's always a lot of money to be made, especially with this new kind of environment and ecosystem we're going into.
Very interesting, man. Yeah, that's a world that I'm only now starting to get into. It's super complex. At least in the beginning, it seems complex. Learning more, it makes the most sense now than it ever was for me. But still learning about it, and I appreciate you giving us insight on that. But I also wanted to get into another topic, which is credit cards. I know that's somewhere that you have a lot of expertise in. You post a lot of videos about taking advantage of credit cards and taking advantage of points that they give you, and also ways of using them effectively. What are some insights that you can give for people regarding credit cards and like how you can use them effectively?
Yeah.
And
so-
in personal finance and for yourself.
Yeah, definitely. So I say credit cards, forget about even credit cards. I would say it's really credit score. It's what you can do with it. You can get credit cards. You can also get, home equity lines of credit, which is borrowing against equity in your own house. You can actually get a house in the first place because your credit is good. And because your credit's good, maybe you get preferred rates, whether you're trying to buy some type of, investment to make even more money from it. The simple example is 0% down on some type of car. You want to put it on Turo to get some type of income, right? That's always a way. So I would say that's one element which can provide so much in life. And then you got credit cards where I'll try to keep it high level, but over the last maybe almost 10 years, I've probably got almost maybe 50K to 75K worth of free travel over these many years through credit cards. And I haven't even
Wow.
flown first class or business class in terms of redeeming these points for these experiences, but a lot of hotel nights flying across the world, going to Korea 5 times over, going to, of course, India and all these places and seeing the world. I think credit cards, the beauty is one way, yes, you get the experiences, you get so much free kind of this whole like life experience given to you early, served on a silver platter, certain types of status and so much more. But really, as an investor, where I love credit cards and what it affords me is that I'm not spending cash on the same travel. I'm getting a huge experience, but I'm not burning maybe 5K, 10K to go to Hawaii and spend X amount of cash where that could be invested. So it's almost like an arbitrage opportunity, or not arbitrage, but a transfer of quote unquote wealth within my own portfolio where I'm saving what cash I would have spent and that can stay invested and just grow that much more over the long term. So I'll stop here, but that's kind of the high level of where I love to leverage it,
Yeah, that sounds super interesting. I do do a little bit of that too. I try to rack up those points and then take advantage of any rewards given by credit cards. So moving on to, I guess, investor psychology and mindset. What is your philosophy or mindset around the way that you invest, and what makes a successful investor?
So I would say a mindset or psychology is going to be, it's like a rubber band. You can stretch, a rubber band is your brain or emotion or psyche. You can keep stretching it and it may get looser and more malleable and more flexible. And at the same time, when you're stretched really thin, all you need is one type of hit and then the whole rubber band kind of, snaps in two. And then you got to start now recovering your mindset to get back on the wheel if you ever want to approach it again. So that was a convoluted way to say, basically the mindset, if you understand, are you familiar with Stoicism, either of you?
Yep.
So if things happen the way they do, as long as you can understand like, hey, these are the ebbs and the flows of the market, I would say the mindset is if everything is malleable, as you might as well have one thing coming in always to maintain that malleable situation, which is basically new money coming in. So whether that's new income from your same portfolios or an active income job you have, basically as long as you have money coming in my opinion, you can trade, you can invest, you can do whatever you want the way you want. And the moment, this is my philosophy, personal philosophy, when I'm, let's say, not working actively, that's when I would prefer to live off of my income. And there's schools of thought of, hey, when you're planning on retiring, start getting those distributions and otherwise, but, topic for another time. And then what makes a successful investor? I would say what makes a successful investor is introspection and the ability to kind of look inside and ask the hard questions and not BS yourself. Because if you don't BS yourself and you go by the playbook or you do logical moves, I mean, the risk we already know through either mathematical models or if we assume the market is fair, whether that's true or not, if we assume that assumption and we do all the correct right moves, there should be no mistake, right? but we all make mistakes. So this really means that no one's really successful at any given point. They may have their peak, but you got to keep proving your success. But instead of proving it for the outward facing, can you beat the 7 to 8% the S&P has gone up over the last 100 years? It's more about where you're trying to be. What is the whole goal of you investing? Is that you want to be out of maybe working somewhere in 10 years? How do you do that? Maybe you go for REITs in terms of passive income where you're getting 10% a year versus maybe waiting 20 years for your type of dividends to pile up in such a way where you can afford that as well. So there's different ways to associate what you're trying to do. So success is really personal, just like finance is personal finance, etc.
Awesome. Yeah, it's true. Like you got to look within, and it's very like again you said it's very personal, and like everybody has different goals. I think my goal is hopefully learning from you, people like you, and people that are successful in investing. That one day I can prioritize maybe like if I don't want to work as much, or if I don't want to work like the 9 to 5 until I'm 65, maybe do it a little younger. Maybe I can take a couple more vacations with my family once I have a family, and that's like something that I would like value and prefer. So like seeing our goals kind of be similar is kind of interesting because like I think a lot of people have similar goals. So but some people might not. But yeah. Phil, do you have anything else you want to ask Lalit?
No, I mean for now I think we're good. Just the three questions that we would like to ask you. It's going to be one personal, one professional, and then one random. So be ready for that one.
Sounds good.
Yeah. So for the first personal one, I'm gonna ask you this one. So what's a habit or trait you're looking or you're working on to get better? Like whether it's investing, whether it's personal, whether it's whatever you want. Answer that question as you wish.
When I was younger, I was able to think more clearly because I had less maybe burden or things on my shoulders. So what I'm trying to get better at, back then not realizing how free flow of thought I had, was essentially giving myself to think for myself or alone time, where I used to think, keep going. But I realized the importance of taking that step back the whole 1 step back, 2 steps forward. But there's something about it where when you have the drive and the mindset, sometimes you just need that physical break, and it's hard to acknowledge. But when you give it to yourself, it's priceless. And that's what I got to see this last holidays, a couple of weeks from the time of this recording, just ago. And I feel that's something I want to get better at, is giving myself the permission to take a break such that I'm not constantly burning out and then looking back at why was my output not so great? Oh, because I was burnt out. But that's not an excuse. It can all be done in a balanced way. But how do I do it? And that's what I'm trying to figure out. So you can say time management, but it's not the management of time. It's almost like finding more time. You know that feeling 24 hours in a day isn't enough sometimes. So
Yeah.
It's a matter of allocating your attention and your focus, right? And then, but also taking that time away and knowing that time away will only help you focus and divert your attention 100%, or allocate your attention much better than you would if you were burning out.
Yeah, and if I may add something else, it really comes down to where the majority, a lot of folks say, in your life, 33% you're sleeping. If you sleep 8 hours a day, if you're working 8 hours a day, right, that's another 33% of your day. And what I've realized is, in the consulting field, no 2 days are really the same is a great reason to join, but it also means maybe you don't have that straight 9 to 5 schedule, and I'll be home for 6:30 for dinner with traffic and that type of schedule. And I think that is, again, not an excuse, but if that's something that plays into it, I guess I'm sharing for anyone who's in a situation where the schedule maybe is not fixed. How do you get maybe 1 to 2 times a week that's blocked off for you? There's so many different ways to cut the pie, but basically just want to share because if you're listening to this, you're not alone if you're like this. So it's more common than we all think, I'm sure.
Yeah, for sure. Phil, you wanna ask the second one?
Yep. So for professional, where do you see yourself professionally in 5 years?
Professionally in 5 years, there's one option where I can be, in the consulting field and kind of go on, amassing different types of businesses and income growth and all this type of kind of the same path. But there's no real stopping point if that's just kind of the way. So what I envision is a goal of mine professionally is consulting is a skill that I have in the job market, quote unquote, the corporate America type of skill set. But at the same time, I have these other ways of managing money that also comes from these same income sources. So in a perfect world, 5 to 10 years from now, I would want to be financially independent. But from there, would I still be a consultant or what I'd be doing? I think it's about having my time back. And then the new challenges start of how do I fill up my time and otherwise. but I think it's the first goal just so I have quote unquote infinity to think about it. But I know I'm not going to be chilling on the beach after the first 10 days. I'll be doing something or the other. So I just want to buy my time back 5 to 10 years from now or even quicker than that.
Awesome. Yeah. I couldn't agree more. Like that financial independence thing, like it's something that I crave and like something that I want. And I think that's just freedom. And yeah, like, that was a good answer. So last one random. How do you figure out why you want to what you want to do for the rest of your life? Like how do you how do you figure that out? Like I know it's such a broad question, you might not have the answer, but how do you answer that one?
I would say so I beatbox, like making music with your mouth. It was the first thing I just kind of gave my heart and soul into. So I was like 12 years old, got into it, and then I figured out that, hey, there's people online that beatbox as well, and there's a community behind it, and there's so much more. So I went down super deep into this. What I realized through all of it, if you take out the skill itself, it's about how you learn a skill. And what I learned was exactly how to go from zero all the way to being, a country champion and doing international, so some background for anyone who doesn't know, I have a team here in Atlanta. We host America's largest international beatbox battle event. And it's basically something that came from not me waking up one day and saying, let's throw a beatbox event. It was me being a beatboxer and going through the learning phase and then seeing how that could be monetizable in a very fair way. But what I'm trying to explain through this is the progression of learning that from a young age to where it became. I feel I can do that same kind of process or that roadmap to learn anything else ever, literally. So to figure out what you want to do, I'm indirectly saying you got to try different things, yes, but don't try it with a judgmental kind of thing. It's kind of like, what do you do every day? If no one's looking, what are you doing every day? If you're on Facebook or Insta, that's okay, even if people say it's bad. But what does that mean? Does that mean you want to do the other side? I used to consume so much YouTube for years and years and years that I became a creator on YouTube, and that came from me consuming and wanting to create. So there's nothing wrong with anything you're doing. But does that mean you want to take that next step and maybe look at it like, what if I was doing this all the time? What if I was a day trader all the time instead of maybe looking at my phone constantly and thinking, should I trade or should I not? What does your day look like if you're relying on that type of income? So it's kind of like put yourself into some position where, what if that was your day every single day? Take 5 days off and go try to shadow someone or try something new or try something different. And guess what? What are you going to lose?
Yeah, for sure.
But you have a lifetime of experiences, so it's kind of my opinion is.
I want to ask you about two things. I want to ask you about the beatboxing. I want to ask you about the YouTube,
Sure.
And we'll finish off with this. I know it's more of like a personal, like creative passion of yours.
Sure.
So with the beatboxing, I beatbox as well, or I used to, and
crazy.
Paulino's a champion. Paulino's
I'm not a champion, but I used to do it growing up a lot. Like I even we had like a senior year like talent show in high school, and my performance was beatboxing. Now I do it more casually and more fun, like for my friends, just to fuck around. But it's something that I loved to do when I was growing up, and I did it in front of people, which is kind of crazy. But what is that life? Like, I want to know what the beatbox life is like in the professional area.
Yeah.
Like, how do you even like set up that event? How did you communicate with these people? And also, like, are people really people are so good at beatboxing? I don't even know how the hell you develop those skills. Do you guys drink a lot of water? Do you guys like the breathing techniques? Like, what do you guys do?
Yeah. So it's kind of like think about a person who's really chatty. They're always talking like, "Hey, did you hear about this?" They keep chewing your fucking head off. You know what I mean? Those type of people. But instead of speaking, they, I guess they're just trying to make music with their mouth. But in the beginning, it's just kind of, like doing random shit.
So
but then you
sick,
get
dude.
better and better and better. So the day-to-day life of this, it's what you make it. You got social media influencers who beatbox. You have more of before, the Roni Rona times, more your acapellas and the circuits of, beatboxing with other type of things. In this type of circuit, of course, like it's more in the back end, so business kind of conversations with potential sponsors for funding, based on the metrics of the event. So it becomes back to kind of more of a corporate setting in one way. But when you're performing on stage and those type of things, man, it's, I'm smiling. I think you can see it. Like, it's just fun to be out there and be confident. And people love it as long as you're not like an asshole or just making stupid sounds, So, yeah.
Yeah, and you're setting up these events. You're dealing with sponsors. That's so like interesting because like all of a sudden you're becoming a promoter, you're becoming an event planner, you're becoming like a producer of these events. Like how the hell do you talk to these sponsors? Like what do you even do? Do you pitch them?
It's funny. That's where even management consulting, it's not about what you really did and maybe whoever's listened to this, it's one of those. The secrets is sometimes it's about the sales. It's about the promise. It's not about the thing. It's about what is the next step. So what I'm getting at is, you learn how to convey a message, to communicate, hey, we want this, and you will be getting X plus Y, of return. And it's about how do you make this either a mutually beneficial situation, or what is the, win-win type of scenario, or the reward, right? So it comes to what is a value add. So for us, reality speaking, it's saying, hey, on one platform on YouTube, we may get an average of 150,000 monthly views, but we also have Instagram and TikTok and Snapchat and other type of distribution channels. And more than that, we actually have an email list of 10,000 people from these type of countries. These are the demographics. These are the age groups. But more than that, if you actually say, hey, you want a sponsored post on our website, then maybe that has some linkage, some affiliate links. How many people sign up through that? We may get a kickback from there. So it's a lot of streams of revenue, making it sure that, hey, there's this many eyeballs, but it's about conversion of, let's say we have 1,000 people, we convert 1%, that's 10 people. You got 100,000 people, 1% is 1,000 people who buy maybe a $5 product on expected kind of value. That's $5K in revenue for some type of XYZ company. And based on that, they may give just an example like, hey, here's $2,000 cash up front and you get a cut of every sale, etc. So just an example. So there's so much I can keep talking about, but let me stop here. Just giving you some insight. Yeah.
Is it similar with YouTube? Like I know YouTube, like I know you're growing your channel, and like you're like I guess the philosophy is very similar with YouTube, because you're trying to like make it a business as well, no?
Yeah, so I went to something called FinCon, financial convention, but it actually stands for financial content. So it's podcasters, bloggers, and YouTubers. And basically they have something like a career fair / partnership kind of fair. So, all these affiliates like M1 Finance, Robinhood, Public, BlockFi, Webull, all these guys, right? So they'll be at these conventions, and you get to actually talk with them, but more importantly, you'll be their partner or affiliate. And so that's where you can get those conversations going of, hey, is it something where people sign up with my link, or can I get cash up front? And so what I'm getting at is there's a lot of just kind of situations that you kind of won't know about publicly unless you're really looking for it. And that's just how the creator economy right now is. It's growing, but it's still smaller. Where how do you find those people, your niche, you know what I mean? And so it's up and coming. All the support around all these industries. So
awesome, man.
Yeah.
Listen, Phil, you have anything you wanna ask?
No, I just want to say thank you. Thank you for being our first guest. It was a good experience, and hope to have you on sometime later down the road.
Yeah, no, appreciate it, Phil, Paulino. Yeah, hope to do this again sometime in the future, man. Pleasure.
Hell yeah, man. Listen, dude, we've been talking for like over a year already, man. Like it's about time that we got something recorded.
Yeah.
But yeah, I appreciate everything that you've said, and that you definitely added value to people listening, and I appreciate it. We'll definitely have you on again if you don't mind. Whenever, like I'm gonna text you next time, man.
Love to, man. Love to. Appreciate it. Thanks, guys.
All right, guys. Thank you for everyone who listened to the podcast, and make sure that you listen on all the podcast platforms: Spotify, Apple, Google Podcasts, wherever you get podcasts, and YouTube as well with video. I appreciate it, and thank you again. See you, Lalit. Thank you, guys.
See you guys.
Awesome.